Today on the Transplant Helper, I'll be answering a viewer's question, which is basically, Jim, when should I seek out a second opinion concerning my health? Stay tuned. Hey folks, welcome to Transplant Helper today. My name is Jim Merle. In answering the viewer's question, Jim, when should I seek out a second opinion concerning my health? The answer I'm going to give you today is every single time, especially when it comes to the transplant life. You know as well as I do, if you're a pre or post-transplant patient, that making the decision to make a transplant is a very, very, very important decision. That's why when the doctors sit down and decide that they might even make that decision, they don't do it just based on a one or two conversation deal. As a matter of fact, generally speaking, they put you through an entire evaluation process consisting of dozens of tests to try to decide if and when you're a candidate for transplant. However, it is also the case that even though those tests are very technical, they're based on numbers such as that, based on facts generally, that even aside from that, sometimes doctors read those tests differently, therefore they have different opinions of those tests. The same is the case post-transplant in how doctors deal with you. They all have a little bit of their opinions playing into that, and so because of that, it's always good to get that second opinion. Now, I'll give you just one example of hundreds, and probably many of you could comment below the video toward the end of this and tell me about your experiences. But I'm thinking right now, Mark Johnson. Mark Johnson is one of those people that recently received the gift of life, I think maybe about 6 months ago at the time of this taping of this program. But Mark Johnson was just one of those people who went to one transplant center, was evaluated, and then that transplant center gave him the answer of no, we're not even going to list you for transplant. You're not a candidate. And then because he sought out a second opinion, his life was saved. I think when Mark's case, he went from Duke maybe over to Mayo Clinic in Rochester, something like that. But nonetheless, I'm sure many of you had those same stories where you went in to be evaluated. Maybe you were turned down on that evaluation. You were told you couldn't get a transplant. And because you sought out a second opinion, you now have the gift of life. And I'm so thankful for that. I'll continue to pray for you in that. And it's just awesome to know that that takes place. However, what I'm talking about is not always concerning going to a second doctor. I've noticed on a number of occasions, as soon as you let your doctor, your current doctor, in on the fact that you want a second opinion, they might turn a cold, deaf ear to you, and they don't really want to hear anything else you have to say. And more times than not, unfortunately, many of them have the attitude, well, if you want a second opinion, go find you a new doctor. And I hate that that's the case, and I hope and pray that that's only happened to a few. No, what I'm talking about is not always going to a secondary doctor, but it is always seeking the second opinion from your current doctor. And what I mean by that is anytime they tell you pretty much anything concerning your care, pre or post transplant, don't be afraid to ask those important questions. Mainly ask questions like, okay, doctor, exactly why are you doing this? Exactly why are you making this decision? Exactly why are you doing this test? Or why are you putting me on this medication? And obviously you're going to say that as kind as you can, and you really are genuine in saying that, but always ask them to explain themselves. Therefore, in a way, you're kind of getting that second opinion. Now, if you're like I am, and I think many transplant centers are this way, I happen to have a transplant center that's also a teaching university, a teaching hospital. So more times than not, I've got multiple doctors coming in the room back to back to back, and each of them are talking to me separately. And so I'm kind of getting the opportunity at least to ask those questions. And then at the end of that, kind of the main doc, my main doctor comes in and makes some of the final calls. But I've been able to get some of those opinions along the way as I go. So my answer to the question is, again, to always seek out a second opinion. Even if you don't go to another doctor for that, just be willing to ask your current doctor the ifs, ands, or buts of what's going on with my care, and be assured that they can back up, if you will, at least by argument's sake, why they want to do one thing or another. I think that's the best advice. That may not answer your question like you probably thought I would, but that's generally my answer, and it's my answer today. Now, let me encourage you, if you've not already subscribed to this channel, how about go ahead and subscribe right beneath this video? It would really encourage me, as well as the fact if you chose to do that and to hit the bell notification right out beside the video, then you will be notified anytime I put out content, which hopefully is going to advocate, educate, and motivate you as a transplant patient. If you've liked this video, give it a thumbs up, share it out to your friends, and just keep on keeping on. But until next time, stay stronger, friends.